Hey guys, it is November 22nd, and real quick, I wanted to bring you guys a Whitetail Minute. I realize it has been a while since I've kind of checked back into these, but I wanted to make a habit of this, and I've got a couple topics lined up. This one, though, is about penetration, shot placement, and you're probably thinking right now we're going into the direction of the skill of the archer and the shot choices that you make, but actually, this whole Whitetail Minutes was prompted by a couple questions. When I posted my review, part 2 of the DRT heads by Dirt Nap Gear, which I'm holding right here, it spawned actually a couple really awesome questions. I got one via email and one on the YouTube channel itself, and that was what makes, it was discussion of Bloodtrail basically. What makes this head produce a better Bloodtrail than others? And I get that concern because the Bloodtrail can be a crucial part of whether or not we find a deer or not. However, let's discuss Bloodtrails then, if we're going to do that. In my opinion, I want a good, solid, sustained Bloodtrail. And what I mean by a sustained Bloodtrail, from the beginning to when I find that animal, it's consistent. It's producing findable blood the entire way in a decent amount. We're not talking a drop here, drop there. We're talking about, a decent spot. I suffer from being colorblind, so I struggle with finding Bloodtrail some. I've been getting a lot better, and it's funny. I always call me and my dad the best duo because he's like a bloodhound with his eyes, and I'm a bloodhound with my eyes, but in a different way. He can spot blood, I swear, from 40 yards away. I can spot a sign or a track or a turned over leaf or a bent branch from 40 yards away. It's one of those things where it's funny when we lose blood. It's one of those things where he kind of looks at me like, okay, which way did he go? And I have to start reading the sign. Otherwise, I'm holding last blood, and I'm like, okay, where's next blood? And he finds it. But so let's talk about Bloodtrails for a second. To me, there are two factors that are a much bigger play in how well of a Bloodtrail you get before we even enter into the discussion of what actually is tipping your arrows, what broadhead you choose. To me, that's number 3, and it while it plays a significant role, it's dwarfed in comparison to these other two. Number 1, shot placement. In all honesty, the majority of what kind of Bloodtrail you're going to see is purely dependent on where the arrow impacts, what it hits as it travels through, and then number 2 is the end of that shot placement is, was there enough penetration for an exit? A lot of your Bloodtrail depends upon those two things. Where is your impact point, and what is the angle, knowing the angle of the arrow as it travels through, knowing what organs it's progressing through, and did you get enough penetration to punch an exit hole out the other side? Because think of it this way, if you don't hit a bunch of stuff that's going to bleed, it's not going to bleed well. And if you don't get an exit hole, it's only going to have half the amount of exit holes in order to bleed. Those are the two biggest factors in whether you are going to produce a good Bloodtrail. And yes, you can listen to advertising, you can listen to all this stuff about these humongous cutting diameter mechanicals, and I know I'm a little negative towards them, but they kill deer. Don't get me wrong. I am a believer that if you put a field point where you're supposed to, that deer's dead, no questions asked. It's not going to produce the blood that you want, and they're probably going to travel a little longer, but it's dead. You put an arrow through both lungs, dead deer. End of discussion. You put an arrow through a heart, dead deer. End of discussion. The broadhead doesn't even play a factor really in that case. Yes, it might speed up the process slightly due to the hemorrhaging and what all was cut, yada yada yada, but the deer's dead, and that's ultimately what we want to accomplish. So the reason why I'm a believer in fixed is more so due to number 2. Factor number 2 of getting a sustained Bloodtrail is, do I get enough penetration to punch that exit hole? It doesn't necessarily mean that I get an entire pass through and my arrow is found on the ground stuck in like my doe was this year, or kicks from a couple years back. Junior is a perfect example last year. When I shot that deer, I was using Luminox. It was low light. When I shot, I never lost sight of the Illuminoc. But the funny thing is, as he bounded away in the darkness, I actually saw the Illuminac come out on the other side. So I lost sight of it as he ran away, but upon impact, it looked like I didn't get much penetration because it was kind of dark. I didn't know where that Illuminac was. Was it sticking out right against his hide, or was it, 8 inches back? Well, it actually ended up that it was right by the entrance hole, and it actually got pulled through as he ran, and it wobbled out on the other side. So I got an entire pass through. But if it would have worked out back the other way, I still punched out that other side, and I had 2 holes instead of 1, producing a blood trail. He died 40 yards away. Didn't have a 2-inch massive cutting diameter mechanical. My doe this year piled up 40 yards away. Saw her drop. Didn't have a massive mechanical. And I'm not saying this to seem negative towards those, because if you put those where you're supposed to, you're gonna get a dead deer. But people ask me why I choose a fixed blade broadhead. It's purely because of penetration. The DRTs are in my quiver now. I'm going to use them on my doe, hopefully a doe in the future. I've shot a buck and a doe this year. My buck, I did use my go-to broadhead for now over, I think, probably 3 or 4 years, and that's Slick Trick Magnums. Their ferrules are exceptionally strong. I get amazing penetration, and I've always gotten sustained good blood trails. I'm not saying it's buckets of blood like you see in these infomercials or the commercials, or, obviously the chosen pictures that, these mechanical broadhead companies share on their websites, or even fixed blades are guilty of choice blood trail stories and things of that nature to sell. Obviously, I mean, they're trying to sell a product, so a quarter size splotch here, splotch there is not as pivotal or as big of a selling point if you show buckets of blood, so. The doe I shot this year, kid you not, it looked like somebody had opened up a hose and was just walking with a hose that was not blasting, but just a steady hose trickle. I mean, it was insane. So those are the 2 biggest factors, in my opinion, before we even get to the broadhead choice. And yes, broadhead choice does impact number 2. I've had good luck with these heads, and I've had good luck with blood trails. But again, I'm looking at a sustained blood trail going back to the original point of this whole entire video. So that's it for this Whitetail Minutes. Hopefully it's been something beneficial to you. I think that's something that we all need to consider when we're listening to these selling points of these broadhead companies. They're trying to sell. Just look at the design. Look at what the design actually illustrates as far as what you can expect that broadhead to produce. But again, if you don't put it where it's supposed to go, and you don't have an arrow with enough penetration power, meaning have you built your arrow too light to really have a bunch of punching power? I shoot a heavy, high FOC arrow to just help even beyond even just having a fixed head. I want to have punching power into this animal. I might sacrifice a flatter trajectory, but I don't care. I want number 1 to be taken care of by me, and I want number 2 to be taken care of by the arrow. And then the broadhead is step number 3. And to me, if it can help out 1 and 2, I'm going to do it. So if it flies true and it has higher penetration potential, I'm going to choose it, and I'm fine with it. So whether it's mechanical or fixed. So this is Ty. God bless. Good luck out there. Remember, as always, like, share. It makes a big difference, believe it or not. Share Small Acre Huntings with all your friends, family. Share it on Facebook. Email it out to people. I don't know what you crazy people want to do, but I appreciate every single person who takes the time to watch these videos, to read my blog posts or my articles and things of that nature. And hopefully I'll be bringing more of these to you. I've got 2 more topics, so hopefully maybe at the end of November and then the first week of December, or somewhere in there, give or take a week, I'll be dropping 2 more Whitetail Minutes on this feature, and hopefully, fingers crossed, here soon we'll be discussing Pop's 2016's harvest of a buck.